Hey guys, in this video we're going to be setting up tRPC with Next.js, so without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, to start us off, we're going to be going to the tRPC documentation, where we're going to be following this guide to set up tRPC using Next.js and also setting up React query in the process. So yeah, the first step is that we gotta install all the dependencies, and since I'm using pnpm, I'll be installing it via that. But if you're using npm, you can use that, but I'll be using pnpm. So you install the dependencies, and after installing the dependencies, we have to create a tRPC router. And to do that, first you should create a tRPC folder. Make sure it's at the root of your file structure if you're not using the source directory, but if you're using the source directory, make sure it's inside that. And in the tRPC folder, the first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating a init.ts file where we're going to be initializing the tRPC thing. So copy this whole thing, paste it here. This initializes tRPC. It creates the procedures and exports them. And below that, we're going to create our first router. So copy this thing. And in the tRPC file, we're going to be creating a routers folder, and below that we're going to be, creating our first router. So copy this and paste it over here. And this is basically a simple procedure where it just prints hello world by taking an input. That's all about it. And the other step is we're going to be creating an API folder to make the API calls in Next.js using tRPC. So go to your app directory, create an API folder, and under that create a tRPC folder with this sort of catch-all route, and create a route.ts. So to do that, I'm just gonna copy this, click the create file button in VS Code, and copy paste this, and boom, it's done. And in there, I'm gonna copy this command, which is basically setting up the router and all that. But before we do that, there's an error. Make sure the import alias is the one that you actually use. So I'm gonna just fix that. And then we're gonna be creating the query client, which is important for React query. So go to tRPC, create the query client here, and just copy it and paste it here. And that's your query client. And make sure to comment out super JSON if you don't know how to use it and you're not going to be using it right now. So make sure you comment this out. And then we're going to be creating a tRPC client. So create a client.tsx and tRPC folder. And just copy this code here. And what this file does is we're going to be wrapping our whole application in this tRPC React provider, which hooks us up with the query client and also tRPC itself. So we don't have to do a lot of this stuff by ourselves. It just comes built in. And so the next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing the same thing for the server. So create a server.tsx file. And make sure it's server only, which it will be if you copy the commands. Okay, and if your router is on a separate server, pass a client. Since our router is not on a separate server, we're going to remove that. And after this, it's using your API, but they haven't really mentioned one step, which is you have to wrap your entire application in this tRPC React provider. And to do that, you're going to go to layout.tsx and just open this and just write tRPC React provider and open the curly braces. Well, not the curly braces, but open it up, put the children's there. And after this process, we're going to be learning how to use the API. So here's how you do a very simple server-based fetch, which you then repopulate in the client. So here's a basic code for that. You get the query client from tRPC. Well, not tRPC, you get from React query, but essentially you are using tRPC. You get the query client, and then you prefetch the queries because we're in the server component. And you prefetch the queries, and you make sure you import tRPC from the server one. And make sure you pass in a text because that's what the procedure takes. Hey, how's it going? How's it going? And then the other step is for you to just set up a hydration boundary and just hydrate everything essentially. So we're going to be setting up an hydration boundary here. So pretty simple. Hydration boundary, you do this, I'm just going to open a div here, just a random div, and we're going to put the stay here, which is dehydrate the query client. So that's how you put a hydration boundary. And here what you can do is you can pass in a client component, and then you could essentially get all the results from the fetch in the client component. So that's about it, guys. That's how you set up tRPC and use it in Next.js. And click the like button if you like the video, subscribe if you want to, and have a great day.